2014 was a weird crossroads for me as a fan of Korean music. I had just come into contact with my first realization of just how insular South Korea is. Looking up things as I was bored at work, having to do with K-pop, just going through the history of it and things like that, and I came across something. I don't even remember what the show was. It could have been a gag concert. It could have been a parody show. But basically, it was these 4 women who were wearing afros and had done blackface. It was shocking to me because I didn't realize, and I guess I should have, knowing how the world works, but it was the first time that I actually saw that blackface was one of those universal truths that even in countries where purportedly they don't have a lot of people who are dark-skinned, it's still something that they use as a means to mock and to belittle. And that was really jarring to me. I think it was the first time where I questioned, is this really something that I want to put myself into, invest my time into, invest my affections into? Because genuinely, I just love music. I love different cultures. I love different languages. Everybody's beautiful and I love to see everybody. But seeing this ugliness, that even if I hadn't firsthand experienced it, it was one of those things that you sort of wear in your DNA. It's part of your history, whether you're actively part of that sort of degradation or not. I had experienced my fair share of racism and, nastiness. I mean, you can't escape it being a Black person in the States. It's not something that you live your life not having to deal with. And to see it in a culture that I'm just now getting into, that I'm just trying to find out more about, it really took me aback. It was at that time that I first questioned my involvement in something that is ultimately not for me. That's when it opens your eyes to everything that you probably didn't see before, just didn't pay attention to, whether you didn't see it, like you genuinely hadn't seen it, or you sort of turned a blind eye because in your mind it's like, well, they just don't understand. But then to see something as specific as blackface, you realize that there's something really ugly underneath there. Like a lot of people who just get into it, you don't see brown-skinned people. You don't see darker-skinned Koreans, whether they just have tans or whether they're genuinely mixed race. You don't see that when you first get into it. So your thought process, even if it's subconsciously and not something that you genuinely believe, subconsciously your understanding is nobody looks like me over there. And so therefore, this is something that they have no experience with. Turn around and see something like that, you realize, well, maybe I haven't been paying attention as much. And so you look at things like artists who use the stereotypical understandings of hip-hop culture, of Black culture, of the hypersexualization with certain artists who have darker skin by nature in Korea, or the use of the symbolism that has very deep history, cultural history in the States. And there's a reason for the chains, there's a reason for the Adidas, there's a reason for the grills, there's a reason for people talking about gin and juice and Hennessy and all that in their culture, and in their upbringing, and in their neighborhoods where they live, how they are. There's no such thing as that in that context in South Korea. So to see them wear that, to see them throw their hair in box braids, or to throw their hair in cornrows, and you just sort of like, that's weird. You sort of question your place. So when I came across Lee Michelle, she wasn't the first artist I saw who was actually genuinely Black and in Korea. The first person I saw was Yoon Mi-rae, Tasha, obviously. If you're looking for a Black artist in Korea, the first person that's going to pop up is Yoon Mi-rae. Obviously, I was in love with her. I hadn't actually seen Insuni or anything like that, and then I saw Lee Michelle. When I saw Without You, and I saw that there are people in South Korea who are very much on the outskirts of what is considered quote-unquote natural Korean, or unblemished, I guess. And there's this young woman who her experience in the industry hasn't been the best, and her experience obviously growing up as a child in Korea wasn't the best. And to see somebody actually express the same pain that someone like me growing up in the States, in different parts of the South, and even in the North and Midwest, seeing that there is somebody in another country all the way across the ocean who can relate to what I have experienced as a person growing up in the United States. The video was so visceral. Her passion, you can hear somewhat of the pain that she had to go through as she sings the lyrics of a song that has multiple meanings, but in this context, especially with the visuals of the music video, someone who has to try to figure out how to navigate in skin that is looked down upon. Just from seeing the reactions of different people who saw the video and posted reaction videos to it, especially among the Black community of YouTube reactors, it was instantaneous. You can see on their faces that there's a history there, that they can connect to this. From seeing, a boy band and you wanting to know more about where this is coming from, to coming up with this video that is so impactful and resonates so clearly with you, not knowing what she's saying. You see this, you see the juxtaposition of her as a child and her as an adult, and how some of the pain and the struggle that she had to go through from a child to an adult still kind of stays the same. I mean, it's incredible that as much as music is universal, that sort of feeling of ostracization and having to find out where you fit also resonates universally. You have the newer groups and things like that coming up who are having this broad mainstream appeal to international communities, more specifically Western communities, and even more particularly in the States. You have that pop phenomenon happening through the Hallyu wave. One of the more confronting and the more personally impactful things that comes as a result is finding that there are people who are just like you in places you have never been before in your life. And Lee Michelle did something that resonates, I think, much deeper than any just a pop song or a universal anthem. She took a particular experience and said, this is what I had to go through in my life. Maybe there's someone in the world who's been through the same thing. And she used her platform as an artist to reach out to people from different parts of the world. And I think that's absolutely the power of Hallyu at this point. And since 2012, people are able to connect with somebody from a completely different country on a very, very personal level. Hence the power of the Hallyu wave.
Without you, no, she